almost one of those situations where it's nice to have somebody that would maybe be able to man the board.
Yeah,
but
it's nice that I can see it.
We need a theme song. We can play like the 5 to 10 second like song of
have you?
This is the roasto.
Well, that's
drink it. Some at home. We'll get really hyped up and talk about
whatever. Well, that's it. That's the new theme song. And hi, everybody, and welcome to the Roasto with myself, imaginary friend Jack, and the one and only Darkosto.
That's me.
How you doing today?
I'm great. I'm drinking some coffee. This is my third, fourth. I don't know.
I think it's my third or fourth too. So I get it. So for all of you out there, we are actually finally back in the podcast studio.
We are. We're here. It's weird.
Yeah, it is.
We did that one test run. It didn't work out well.
Right, because we had some audio issues.
Yep.
My fault.
But no, it's all right. And then that was the first one. But then from then on, we recorded episodes or talked strictly online. So
yeah, it's
weird.
I'm
not used to looking at you when I talk to you. I need to look at the wall to make it.
Yes. We'll add cameras to it. It'll look like we're looking at each other. It'll be fine.
There you go. Yeah.
Actually, it kind of works out for me because I noticed that I lean in so much to my mic. So being able to like actually see you helps me like, yes, depth perception. I'm not like eating the microphone anymore.
It's weird. I use this mic almost every day, so I've just gotten used to it. I've also learned some of the tricks of, you get a little bit close and you do a little of this, and then
you do your little R&B voice, smooth radio.
And then you want to do your far away like room sound. You just turn around and just you like this, and then you get a lot of room. Yeah, so it's nice. Yeah, you start to learn how to use the mics.
Hey, tricks of the trade. I like it. Yeah, and actually, I'm finally using a mic that's I would say comparable to the one that you're using.
That's a great mic.
Yeah, I'm at my home studio. We have two of the Rode podcast mics actually.
Those are good mics. I like those. Those are. I suggest those to people who are looking for a good like streaming mic or a good obviously podcasting mic. That's what that one's made for.
Yeah, and it's wonderful, and we actually used it to record some like music ones too. It actually they work really well.
Nice.
Of course they're a little more like Omni, so they got a little bit more room, but. Yeah, it was really nice. I've really enjoyed it, but I am excited because I know that this mic gives you more of that classic radio sound, which my voice is nasally enough. So I think these are
the mics when you go to studios and anything that's broadcasting, you'll most likely see this mic or the SM7B.
Right, yeah.
So those are the two that you see a lot. And if they're doing like in your face mics, but then there's a whole bunch of like shotgun mics and all this kind of stuff.
Right, but, just around everywhere. Yeah,
but these are the ones. I mean, they've been around forever. They work really well.
Yeah, they're nice.
Yeah.
So you've been back in the studio actually a little bit longer than I have. And how's it been being back here at Novo?
It's great. I need every day when I get up, I want to have a routine, and usually when I would get up to come here. I'd jump up, clean up. I would then walk out to the bus stop, take the bus, and then I can like kind of start my day up, read a little bit, read some news or catch up on some things on Twitter, and then walk to the studio and then do my thing and then head back. And there's this nice decompress time when I'm riding the bus back.
Right. And jumping off points, literally.
And like I have on my watch, I get like every time I go to the office, it's like 6,000 steps or something like that for that day, which is, just that change alone gets me a whole bunch of steps. So it's better because I'm up and moving around a lot, and I, here in the office, I have a nice stand desk because I'm trying to be a little bit healthier.
Of course.
So sitting at home for months, I felt cooped up, felt like I didn't get out as much. And it's different though. I don't like to walk just for the sake of walking. I like to walk because I need a destination in mind. Okay. Like I can't work out for the sake of working out.
Right.
I need to actually be doing those things. And that stuff is mimicking. Yeah. Right. I would rather kayak than
go on a rowing machine.
Pretend to kayak. I'd rather do that.
I get that. Oh yeah. I definitely get that.
Yeah. So it's much better. I feel like I am actually more active, and it's tiring though. I used to be able to stand up 50 or 60% of my day. at my desk.
Yeah.
And I can't do for probably more than 20%, I think.
I know exactly what you mean. So like this week being back, my first kind of initial goal was to, before I get too into that, actually, for all of those out there who might be worrying, we are staying far enough apart from each other. I measured it out. We are a good distance, and
I could not reach out and touch you.
Exactly.
If I wanted to. I won't, because that's not safe. And
also, I don't know that we're there in our friendship yet. Kidding, of course. But and we're also kind of angled from each other too. So, any air, what like plumes
I'm not blowing my particles at you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. But yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. Like I always have tried to like, I'm a bit heavier set, whatever, but I've, over the past 5 years or so, been trying to like get in shape. And, even though I may not lose my tummy, I still like, I'm like, I know I'm strong. I know I'm healthy. Like I'm doing the work. I just love food.
Food's great.
Yeah.
I moved to Louisiana. Yeah. I love food a lot too.
Yeah.
It's a bad place to love food.
It is. Oh my gosh. The South in general is a bad place to love
terrible.
Food. I had to go back for some family reasons recently, and I swear the only reason I didn't gain weight is because it's the beginning of summer and I sweated it all off.
That's that. Yeah. I remember when I first moved to Louisiana. I was going to school down there, so it was like end of summer,
right?
So starting the fall. And I stayed with a friend who said, this is how much you have to pay for rent, and then if you don't mind helping out around the house and whatnot. Right. So I would clean up and do these things because he was giving me a really good deal on rent. So I was like, I'll just do all this stuff because he was a nice guy because he let me have kind of full reign of the living room and all that kind of stuff. So it was like he was either gone or he just hung out in his room. And I just clean everything up and make sure that it was presentable and all that. So the first time I went out to mow the lawn, it was Louisiana hot.
Oh, and so it's like wet hot.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And after about 10, 15 minutes, it was, I don't know how many, it was like probably 90 something degrees, like for some ridiculously like 90 something humidity or percent of humidity. It's huge. I was sweating. I was really hot. I was probably verging on some kind of like heat stroke thing. Right. And I go inside and he has hardwood floors, but they're nice and cold. So I laid out full on the floor and under a fan because I was just way too hot. And that was how I was introduced into the hot Louisiana or southern weather. And you're right though. You can just melt away some pounds.
I mean, I hadn't been back to Texas for like 5 years, right? So I had finally kind of acclimated to the weather up here, and like I'm now like I really enjoy the cold when it's cold. I really enjoy all that.
Yep.
But I went back and I was like, I was born here. I know what the heat is. I know how it's gonna be. I get there and it was like travel in general was weird, and I can get into that later. But walking off the plane, even into an air-conditioned airport, was like just a wall of like the air was just like, it became so thick and I instantly felt it in my shoulders. Like I was just like, I am so weighed down right now. I'm like, I don't miss this at all. It is, oh my God. And I grew up there. Like I remember like exactly like you said, like we made redneck air conditioners. Have you heard of these?
No, because fortunate enough for me, we always had an actual store-bought air conditioner. But I've never heard of this. Is this some kind of ingenuity? Ingenuity? There it is, the word. Yeah, that's what it is. Okay.
So yeah, like every house down there, unlike up here, like every house had air conditioning. So when you were like at home or whatever, you could use it. It just got expensive really quick. But me being a scout and all that, doing all that stuff. I worked summer camp and.
You went to summer camp?
I went. I was a lifeguard. I worked the summer camp for like 3 years. It was like a Boy Scout summer camp just outside of my hometown.
I've never done summer camp stuff.
Oh, really?
Never. I took some trips here and there. Went to like a theme park.
Yeah.
But summer camp, I've always envied that. Remember that movie Heavyweights?
Yes, I do.
I mean, obviously, Tony Perkis, who was actually, I always thought Tony Perkis and White Goodman?
Yes.
Were the same, basically the same character.
Yeah, that, and I would even say the The guy he played in Happy Gilmore too. He was like the orderly, the nurse's aide or whatever at the.
Oh, I forgot about that. He was like the really mean guy that was like.
Yeah. Like I feel like he channeled all three of those characters are like from the same place. Yeah.
That to me was the best Ben Stiller character like ever.
Yeah.
It was amazing. Like Tony Fergus, White Goodman from Dodgeball.
Dodgeball. Yeah, Dodgeball.
And then Happy Gilmore. That was a little bit different, but he was still like an evil guy.
Yeah.
He plays like a really good evil
villain. Yeah, he does.
It's so good. But sorry. So Heavyweights came up not too long ago and I watched it again. And it's a movie about a bunch of overweight kids that get sent to this, what they called fat camp.
Yeah.
And then ended up, they're all going there because everybody's like, oh, it's going to be great. We're just going to hang out. We're going to play all these cool things and do go-karts and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
And it's not really this camp for them to lose weight. It's more so they're just getting up and being active and it's fun.
Right.
But then Tony Perkis comes in and makes it some like infomercial about making kids lose weight. It's like some miraculous weight loss thing. And
definitely channeling that 90s like sleaze, like, you know, the infomercial guy.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it had like all the same kids from like what Mighty Ducks and all those other shows. Remember?
Oh,
yeah. I think Goldberg was in it. And,
he was.
What's his name from Keenan and Kel? Was it Kel or Keenan?
Keenan Thompson. Yeah.
Yeah. So it has like a bunch of these kids who are all in the same stuff. So it's weird because you know all those movies that these groups of movies come out with the same actors or whatever.
Right.
I remember when Lost Boys came out and Billy Winter was it Billy Winters?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, who was in Lost Boys, who's also in Bill and Ted and all this other stuff.
Right.
But there would be all these different movies.
They were like clusters. Yeah.
And then so Heavyweights would have this group of people that were from all these other 90s movies, and it's good. That's like I watched it again. It's stupid, but it's really good to go back and watch. But I always envy not the stuff where they get tortured, but the other stuff where
the fun stuff,
the fun camp stuff.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I never got that. I was supposed to go to space camp.
Really?
Yeah, I was supposed to go to space camp, and I thought that I was told that I was going to be able to go, and then unfortunate circumstances happened. I wasn't able to go, and then everybody at school made fun of me because I was like, I was so excited about going to a space camp.
Oh, so you like bragged about it. And
yeah,
then
I was like,
you come back and they're like, so space camp, and you're like, you didn't get to go. And then like, oh my God, kids are the worst sometimes.
Kids are the worst. I don't know if I'd want to go back. I want to go back to school. I want to go back when I'd be transitioned in my younger body with what I know now.
Oh yeah.
So I could
just avoid all the awkwardness and
I could use my knowledge of the future to put them in their place
and hopefully make better people.
Yeah, right. There's it's a weird situation back then. Although you know, I always thought about this. If I was to have my brain implanted in my younger body in the past, I don't know if I would remember the bus that I was supposed to get on to go home.
Oh, yeah. No, I depending on what year it was, I think I could. I think I could.
Did you have like buses lined up to when you went outside the school and they were all the yellow school buses?
So, so I started riding the bus actually when I was in kindergarten.
Mm-hmm.
Because I lived like an hour away from the closest school.
What?
Yeah, I lived in the hill country. Yeah.
Wow.
There's this little town called Kingsland, and it's like, I want to say like an hour, 2 hours from Austin.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and when I lived there, you know, it was nothing. There was a Mr. Gatti's, I think, like the pizza place, and that was it. And like a church, there was no grocery store. There was none of that. And
no grocery store?
Yeah, no, you had to drive into Marble Falls for groceries. And then for the school, I had to get on a bus that was kindergarten through 12th grade students. It wasn't like broken up by ages like a lot of them are. Yep. Like when I went to like middle school and stuff. But yeah, like it was like an hour bus ride every morning and every afternoon. And I was like one of the last stops both times. So I was like one of the last to get picked up, last to be dropped off. And it was weird, you know, and with that one, it was just one bus, like going around doing everything. But then fast forward like to we called it intermediate school. It was like 5th and 6th grade.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that's weird. Yeah, we called it that too. I thought that was just like a New York thing.
Really?
Yeah, we had an intermediate. Yeah.
It was our school district. Like it was weird. Nobody else had it, but we did. We were big enough to have it.
That's what. Yeah, same thing. I mean, it's since changed. I think from when I was going to school. But we had like like K-2 or something, and then we had other like school or two between that.
Yeah.
But they've since like combined them or whatever. But it was weird because like we were big enough.
Yeah, it was like K-4, 5th and 6th grade. Then you had 7th and 8th grade was your middle school. And then you had high school, 9th through 12. But
my 7th through 12 was in one building.
Really?
Yeah.
It used to be that way, but like they built the new high school just before I entered 7th grade. So we were the first ones to be like pulled away.
Oh, gotcha.
And then they built another high school while I was in 7th grade.
It was nice and new though, right?
Yeah. So I was like the first graduating class from this high school.
Nice.
Like, yeah, it was brand new. But yeah, like I remember like 7th and 8th grade, like they were lined up outside, all along the side of the building, all that. 5th and 6th grade, they like actually drove in around this little cul-de-sac and like all the kids were waiting outside. And then high school, it was just like, all right, get there, find it and get there. It was never in the same place twice because the lot was so poorly designed, because that was the reason they had actually built the new high school after like switching it all around, because the parking lot at the old high school, what became the middle school, was just too small. And there were too many kids who were like, I can drive now, I need a new lot. So they like split the buses on two sides of the school, and you never knew which side your bus was going to be on. Like,
I thought you meant like they were in a different order every day. Like there was like 20 buses lined up and they're in a different order. You're not even talking about they're in different locations.
Yeah, it was either you had a bus outside of like where the Spanish classrooms were.
Yeah.
Or it was outside of the band hall. Like,
how are you supposed to know? Did
luck?
you just like,
yeah, like they would try, I guess, but like at least
you have as much chance of putting a USB stick in the right way the first time than finding your bus.
Yeah, at least 2 times, 2 times a month, I would be like, all right, cool. It was outside the Spanish classrooms, and I go out and they're like, oh, it's on the other side today, and you just had to like haul.
They didn't give them much time.
Yeah, they didn't. Yeah,
they just were like, well, I guess
Yeah, like they're like, you've got like 20 minutes after school to get everything done, get to your bus, and go. And that's because I also lived like in one of the suburbs, and my bus went even further out again. Like,
so they had to leave.
Yeah,
right away.
Otherwise, like, I wouldn't get home until like 5:30, and school let out at 3:20.
5:30.
Yeah, if the bus was late. If it was on time, I got there at like between 4:30, 4:45. Yeah,
I used to get home at like 3:15, I think, something like that. I remember being at 3 o'clock-ish because General Hospital was on.
Nice.
Yeah, so I remember this because that's what time it was on,
I was always upset because I would miss like Toonami and things like that on Cartoon Network. Like all the anime that was coming on.
I guess that's what normal people watched.
I mean, it wasn't a cooler thing, when I was in high school. Like, anime was still kind of like, oh, you're one of those people. It was getting there. It's not like it is today where everybody's like, oh yeah, man, I know that show, or I know Dragon Ball Z and stuff. But when I was, when I was in it, they were like, Dragon Ball what? Like, weeb hadn't even been invented as a term yet.
Right.
We were still being called otakus, which means something completely different than what people were using it for.
Yeah. Oh wow, that's a long time ago. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I used to watch. I didn't watch anime. I'm not a big anime fan. This doesn't really.
Nobody's perfect.
Doesn't really. This doesn't appeal to me personally. I mean, I like some cartoons here and there, but just for some reason, anime. I don't know how to describe it. It's like I don't like musicals. I just don't like them. I despise them.
You really?
Yeah, and I don't like them, and I don't. And there's probably some reasons why, but I don't like hate people who hate them.
Sure.
If you want to watch anime, I don't really care.
Yeah.
But I used to go home and watch General Hospital because it was on. My aunt would watch General Hospital. I think it was, what was that before? Like Days of Our Lives. I think it was that before.
Something like that. It's like that 12 o'clock to like 4 p.m. block of like your basic channels or whatever. It was like Days of Our Lives, As the World Turns. What was it? General Hospital, and like one other. They were all like an hour long. Yep. So yeah,
they were. That was some terrible acting.
Oh yeah,
it's weird too because General Hospital had, in my opinion, the best acting, but it was still bad.
Oh yeah.
But it was the best acting, and then the further backwards you go. So 3 to 4 o'clock was General Hospital. Anytime before that, the earlier the episode or the earlier the show airs, the worse the acting was.
Oh yeah.
It was so interesting because I don't have acting skills, but I would be better, I think, than people who went in. It is just so it's weird. It's like I think they get fed their lines. Like nobody knows what's gonna happen. They can't there's no feelings. They don't feel feelings because they don't know what they're supposed to be feeling until
about 5 minutes before.
Yeah, they walk on set in somebody's living room or whatever, and they're like, "Hey, Jimmy, here's what today. Joanne is
pregnant with your brother's baby.
Right. All right. Now feel that. Here's your lines. Go.
Yeah. I remember learning about that my first year, like studying film, like why soap operas were like that. It's because they literally, by the time that you and I were probably watching or old enough to watch soap operas and kind of get it and really dissect how bad they are, is around the time that soap operas stopped being a thing. Like they were a thing, but they started losing their budgets. And so they had to go to like quicker and cheaper and just like faster filming schedules. And like by the time I was in film school, they were basically using handy cams rather than studio cameras.
Really?
Yeah. Like
they didn't even have a good set of hardware.
Yeah. Like it was like the highest end handheld camera you could get that they just threw on a tripod. And it's like, cool, we have access to this house, you know, where we're going to film all these scenes on this day. We have to film like normally on like, if you're on a film set, you could only get through like an eighth of a page in some days. Like, and that's why it takes so long because they want to make sure it's right. They're like, we have to get through 8 pages.
This is for like a movie you're talking about? Or are you talking about soap operas?
Soap operas have to get through 8 pages. Whereas a film or like a regular TV show, maybe not a sitcom. A sitcom is a whole nother way of filming. Like there's literally like 12 cameras on at all times. This
is the multi-cam. There's I didn't know this, but by the way, this kind of interjection. There's 2 kinds of sitcoms. There's a multi-cam sitcom, which apparently is extremely easy.
Yep.
And in most ways, and then there's the is it called single cam or something else?
Yeah, like 1 camera, single cam.
It requires an operator, and it requires you to basically know what's going to happen so that you can react to that. Whereas a multicam, you can just go in editing and you can be like, just grab this part, grab this part, and this angle.
Literally, the way a sitcom is filmed, and I actually worked with a few people when I was in college and after who had worked sitcoms for years. It was, like I said, I think it was 9 cameras a lot of times. And it was cool. In the middle, we've got a wide shot, a 2 shot, and a like an extreme long shot of the entire scene all in the middle, stacked one on top of each other.
Yep.
And then off on the right-hand side of the set, there is all the close-ups from, you know, really tight, medium, all the way to medium. And I think maybe sometimes even a wide, like head to toe from that side. So you could get the one actor on that side of the set. And then like you would cross shoot. And it was like that on the left and right.
Yep.
And then maybe depending on how popular the sitcom was, they would have another camera like for a third actor or something like that. But that's why they're so quick to make. And a lot of people in the industry for a long time hated them because they didn't pay a lot. They were so quick, and the turnaround and the churn and burn on a sitcom was so much. And they didn't feel like there was an art to it because it was literally like scattershot. We only have to film it maybe 3 times if the actors are all on point, especially if it's a comedy and they hit all their notes the right way, rather than finding the characters. And that's why a lot of times
it seems like it's less about like some people who really like about the craft or the acting. It seems like it's less about that, like you said, scatter. It's like shotgun kind of like, let's just fire everything and then let's pick the pieces that work together.
Exactly. And it became more of an edit to make the show than the acting.
That was like, by the way, this reminds me, I just watched something last night. This is how Rogue One was filmed, by the way. Rogue One was filmed that the actors actually were doing different takes, saying or doing it as a different emotion, so that when they were in editing,
they had it.
They could do the scene in any way they wanted,
right?
Because now they had 5 takes. In each of those 5 takes, they emoted differently,
right?
So then they can be like, well, I want this. We need this moment, so let's make it sad, and they grab those
because nobody had faith in Rogue One when they shot it too. Like it was one of the first like not main storyline ones.
Yeah.
And
well, it also sounded like that's true because it was weird because it was the one that was going to be like, oh, this is not a real episode of Star Wars.
It's a side story.
Yeah, but it sounded like it was almost a stylistic thing by the people who I guess directed it.
Yeah.
But it's just a weird thing because again, that for a movie with that huge budget, it seemed weird to me because then those characters don't really understand, or those people don't understand their characters, and they're just going in and they don't know how to feel, or they don't know how to act in the scene.
There's no intent behind it, and that was one of the biggest things in sitcoms and why they were they were shunned for so long until people started realizing, oh, if these have longevity and get into syndication, we can make bank. The entire cast of Friends still gets money from Friends because it's in syndication.
They never do anything ever again.
Yeah, I mean, because commercial work stopped being a thing. Like, speaking of Friends, the guy who played Joey, Matt LeBlanc, he paid his rent for years off one Heinz ketchup commercial. One.
What?
Like a New York City rent.
Yeah.
Because he could get it. Because film stars couldn't be in commercials. Only TV stars could. So when he was first starting out, he got that. Then he got Friends. So he was making bank.
Wait, why can't they be in commercials? Is it just like a contract thing?
Yeah, it was like a difference. If I remember correctly, it was like their guilds basically were like, we can't do this. It's like
did they feel as beneath them?
No, it was just a way to keep. So it all stemmed really from for a long time you never saw actors like big name actors doing voiceover work or anything for like endorsing a product.
Right.
Because they felt like it was too much. People would be like, it was unfair. People would immediately realize Tom Hanks, we know him from everything, not just this one show that we may have seen. He's been blasted out for years, And so immediately we would want to go buy or be a part of whatever insurance thing or medical thing. And then that changed in like the early 2000s. Like that rule kind of went away. And you started seeing like now Tom Hanks can be on 3 commercials at once. But for a long time, you couldn't do that. It just was like taboo. But if you were on TV, you weren't endorsing, you could endorse anything you wanted because you weren't as big.
Right.
People could tune in and watch you, but they're not going to see your face every commercial.
Right.
It was this weird time in this transition between TV and film because it just like the markets were merging in these weird ways. And like I said, you can now do whatever you want basically. But at the time, like people were like, I could be on a sitcom because I can also do commercials and I can make bank, I can pay, I can do things, which is what killed soap operas because soap operas were like the thing. That's where you advertised. Soap operas are called soap operas because they wanted to put something on TV for when, this is horrible. And it goes back to, film has a horrible history. It really does. And you have to sometimes kind of take it with a grain of salt, but like they literally started soap operas because when they were created, women were at home and it's like, oh, you are doing the washing, you were doing these things. So we're going to sell you products like soap or things that you would use for dishes and laundry and stuff, because at the time they were created, men were more in the workforce than women.
Right.
And
they would target that demographic. They knew that they were hanging out watching.
Yeah. And they became the soap opera because of it. Mm-hmm. And they were like, we need something that is engaging and, is long running. So we don't have to constantly be putting out new things. And then when all that started to change and women were like, no, we are a part of the workforce, you start seeing the soap opera start to die. And it clung on for a long time because there wasn't other things going on. But then the sitcom really started to take place, more so than like the original sitcoms like I Love Lucy and, All in the Family. Those things were like for the whole family, whereas new sitcoms were like targeting demographics. And then we're starting to have enough episodes of the older stuff they could put them in syndication. They could start, repeating. They didn't need to fill as many blocks. And so soap operas kind of started dying off.
Right.
And they had to get quicker and quicker. And now you have terrible acting that is all rushed because they have literally no time to do it.
Right.
And
what's the schedule on those? Because I know, I assume that when I'm watching it, it's premiering today. Mm-hmm. It was probably months ago, at least.
Yeah. I mean, it would be like, so it's definitely different from like sitcoms where most of the time sitcoms like The Big Bang Theory, when that was going, they had filmed the first half of the season. It started to air and they were wrapping up the second half of the season when the mid-season finale was happening.
So it's like one episode, like 1 week or every couple weeks or something like that. They basically
something like that. Yeah. And like you get on a pretty tight schedule with stuff like that because studios don't want, they want to be able to break down the set and do another show in the same lot, basically.
Yeah.
And so like it was like, okay, Big Bang Theory's got 24 episodes. So by the time that episode 1 of season 8 or whatever is airing, you need to be wrapping up filming on episode 12. And then by the time the mid-season comes around, so episode 12 is airing, you should be wrapping up episode 24. And that's just kind of like a running schedule that a lot of shows, especially like 30-minute and procedural dramas like, Law and Order and things like that would go. The difference being like how they were filmed, of course. Like Law and Order
it's got like a couple cameras that basically following.
It's more like a narrative film, way that they do it. Like they're a little more experimental. They're a little more handheld. They're not, they're more engaging. They're not something you could literally sit and watch and not pay attention to and still laugh. Like they want to draw you in. So they have more dynamic movement. They have better lighting, things like that. And so those, because of police like procedurals and like drama and shows like that started to get more popular. You see kind of the same thing happening with sitcoms that happen to soap operas.
Right.
But the difference is soap operas were filmed primarily like procedurals for a long time. They can't make the swap to a sitcom setup where they have multiple cameras going because they can't afford it.
Right.
And the locations can't just be built on a set. Like they have to go find them. And it's this weird science
of spiral kind
of
thing where they know what they could do something to get out of it, but the time slot also seems terrible for soap operas.
Nobody wants to watch them because again, like people are at work now. Nobody is home except for kids who are sick, But
although I guess as I said that, I'm thinking about how you could just like watch it pre-recorded or just play it later. But if you're gonna watch something at any time, are you gonna choose General Hospital unless you're really sucked in,
right?
Or you're going to choose some other hour-long drama or something like that,
And now with like Netflix and all these streaming services, you have even more to choose from. So that's why you see like channels like AMC have blown up in the last 10 years because their content is actually perfect for streaming.
Yep.
Walking Dead is as far, I think we've talked about it before a little bit. Maybe I don't know if it was on the podcast or not, but
that show started out great.
Yeah.
And you can go back now and watch it again.
Right. And kind of like we talked about The West Wing once and how like that show you can binge watch it, but you don't get the same effect. It's the same way. But now if you watch The Walking Dead, however, as it's evolved, because it kind of started right at the same time, like Netflix was like, hey, we're doing DVDs to your door.
Yep.
Now the way they shoot the show, if you watch it, there's like a cliffhanger every episode. You want that next one. There's no real like, okay, I can be good for a week. The storylines keep going and there's no stopping.
Oh, you think so? You're saying that they leave it they leave this unresolved moment more so because they know that the next episode is literally 5 seconds away versus
that people are starting to do that. Yeah.
Is there like this negative like tone or this negative feeling if you leave it? So I have to watch it on Sunday night, then I have to wait till Sunday.
Right.
Do they resolve it differently because of that time in between?
I mean, when it first started, you wanted some closure at the end of each episode.
But sometimes, I guess, if it's a major, if there's fewer moments, like once
there's
a season,
fewer things that,
or like the end of the season, then they leave something.
Right.
But you're saying that they do this knowing it's streamable. They do this on a regular.
Yeah, because
interval.
They know like they can pack more in and they can get more rather than. Like season 2 of The Walking Dead is a lot of people were like make or break for that because it drug on for so long in the first half of the season. But they were like, well, we have to give you some closure at the end. We have to build up the story.
Oh, because if you watch it in a row, it feels like nothing's really happening.
Yeah.
But if you break it up, then you're watching it over that many weeks and it's like, okay.
You really feel, yeah. But now if you were to watch it, like you binge watch it, it's like, okay, that only took like a couple of days in their world, rather than it feeling like a couple of weeks when it first premiered.
I guess there's a lot of like what is like world setup, I guess, because you don't really.
They didn't. I mean, they had to in the second season because the first season was only 6 episodes.
And it's based. That's right. I always remember that being a weird thing. It was like almost like at this like, hey, what's going to throw this out here? Well, and it seemed like it worked, obviously, but
right. And they did that for a very specific reason. So Frank Darabont, the original creator, or he's not the creator of Walking Dead, but he was the one who helmed the first season of the show.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, I'm the showrunner. I am like executive producer. I'm developing this for TV. They got greenlit halfway into when they would have already been filming an original 13 episode season.
Okay.
And they said, all right, we can either rush through and film 13 episodes that are not as good as they could be, or we can film half a season's worth of really good episodes.
Right.
And so season 1 is short because it was greenlit. You know, nobody had faith in it. Nobody was like, a zombie show? Like, that's good for movies, but it's too much for TV.
Mm-hmm.
And season 1 blew everybody out of the water. And then like, okay, cool. We were used to rushing. And now season 2, we can take our time, but it was this weird catch-22 of a situation.
Yeah. By
season 3 and season 4, they kind of figured it out. But then again, like also streaming was coming in. So they were like, okay, we're not on streaming yet. This is new. Nobody knows if it's going to work, but now you watch it and they're on like season 9, I think just finished with season 10. I don't even know. And they're like, boom, 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 boom. We know half of our audience is going to stream this later. They're not going to watch it right now. And it's this weird change in the way everything's gone. But it's, that's why you don't see as many new sitcoms coming out anymore, like I was saying, because they're like, well, we could go to Netflix and we could take a little bit more time and we could do something kind of, like, actually, what's a good example that I've been watching recently? I don't watch a lot of 30-minute programs anymore. Again, there's, the market for that's decreasing too.
Right.
People want something longer that they can get through that feels like it has more substance. So that's why
you see like full seasons, but basically it's meant to be like one long movie, but it's broken up for easily digestible.
Yeah, so you can watch 3 episodes and then keep going.
Yeah.
Versus like 30 minutes. Oh, Space Force was a good example. Like that's a 30-minute show. And 30 to 40 minutes roughly. They don't have the ad time constraints that TV does. Like and so like that one, you can binge watch the whole thing in an afternoon. That's what I did. But it would never work on TV. If you watch that show, like aside from like language and all that other stuff, it would never work on TV because it's so fast paced.
Right. It's meant for that medium.
Yeah, you can't. Whereas, and now everybody who is on TV and who has been working with those time constraints and those ad slots, they're like, how do we compete? And so their solution is make the stories faster, make the hooks at the end of each episode stronger. So that way, you still get your world building. It's not as much, but you're not getting you get a big cliffhanger at the end of the season or something to hold you over like every show does. But they're trying to keep that cliffhanger momentum at the end of every episode.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's been a really cool and very strange thing to watch over the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Just as somebody who obviously enjoys this kind of stuff. But yeah, it's a weird world. What were we talking about originally?
I think wait, we went off the rails.
Isn't that just this show?
Well, because it was like the whole me going back in time in my body, coming home to General Hospital.
Right.
That's what it was.
Yes,
so if I was to go back,
about like high school and stuff.
Yeah, if I was to go back, but then I was struggling again. Like I said, I was struggling to know how to get back because of the bus that I had to take.
Right.
And then remember, that many years ago, how I could navigate my way. And then also, like, if I got dropped in a certain day, like I would not know what happened that I would have to go through the motions of what happened, what's the expectations of me right now and next week?
What do I do do I even remember how to get to chemistry or whatever?
Right. Yeah. Like I don't know any of this. Like I don't know where I kept things or whatnot or all that. And it would really be a big struggle. We used to have a compact pre-built computer. Yeah. And it was awful. It's awful now because it was like slow.
Yeah.
We had AOL.
Brick,
It had AOL. So I don't know if it'd be a struggle to be able to do all of those things or to use those things. But yeah, It was the whole thing about. I guess we got into the General Hospital thing or soap operas, but yeah, it was the whole. Recently, I've kind of found out about how they film certain things. Like we're talking about the multicam and the single cam thing, and actually, it was interesting because soap operas, I assume, get filmed. Multiple episodes get filmed in a matter of days, and then they chop it up into a week's worth or something like that. So like they do 9 hours of filming. That actually is going to be however many weeks
spread out of because they have to do all that location.
Yeah,
they only have it for like 2 days. So your first day is pre-light, getting everything set up.
Yep.
They have to film every scene for however many episodes they've got.
Yep.
In the next day. So that's why, you get really bad acting.
You get bad acting, and then, but the cool thing about it is it seems consistent because it's all done together rather than, you get some movies that are like if the Dark Knight trilogy, if that was filmed all at once, it would be interesting.
Right.
Some of the actor changes, or I guess the one Rachel Dawes was
changed.
It
was changed from
Katie Holmes
to Maggie Gyllenhaal.
Yeah. So it would be interesting because there are some movies that have filmed them all. Back to the Future did the second and third ones together.
Yeah.
And then
Lord of the Rings did all 3 consecutively.
Yep. So that was an interesting thing because it felt like everything was a lot more consistent, and it felt like it lent itself into the next episode or the next movie.
Right. It had like a unifying vision rather than like you said, Dark Knight. Like Batman Begins stylistically, even though it's Christopher Nolan, you look at Dark Knight, they're so drastically different.
They are different, yeah.
And then even I would say Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises are pretty similar.
Yes.
But there's still a vast difference because of the cities, because of Gotham. Like you can tell in each one of those movies what city they were emulating. The Batman Begins was like Pittsburgh, whereas The Dark Knight was obviously Chicago.
Yep.
And then Dark Knight Rises was New York and Manhattan. You can tell in their skyline shots.
Why do they change? Is it because they had to do a different location because of the movie filming?
It was the way. So Gotham, in the comics it's kind of fluid. Like it's always kind of changing. There's certain landmarks, and especially now that the video games have come out and like people are like, no, I mean, even then, like, or
it's like, it's supposed to be based on actual cities, but it's
right.
it's a fake named.
It's like a conglomeration of all these cities. Like, especially like, you looked at like old Gotham in Batman Begins. That's like a more rundown. It was like, that's where Pittsburgh came in. That's where they were emulating.
Poor Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I know, right? But then, in The Dark Knight, they were trying to go for, okay, well, this is set. That's all gone. Like that the Narrows or whatever they called it is gone. So now we have to set it in the main city. And so they went with Chicago, which if you've been to Chicago, I've only been once, I would love to go back, is like the suburbs surrounding it are like spread out, but the city itself is really tight, and that's how that film looks. It's really tight. It's almost claustrophobic at times, which really lended into the Joker's chaos. They wanted something bigger for The Dark Knight Rises because Bane's story was bigger. And so they went with something surrounded by water, New York and Manhattan.
Right.
And you see the bridges and you see this more, it's almost like they went from a micro look at Gotham to a macro view of Gotham.
Right. So this is something they planned in the movies.
Yeah, it was
to
part
do that.
of,
Yeah. So because when you first did that, I was like, oh, is it something that they just got stuck in these different cities because they couldn't do it?
Yeah.
But that's actually a really interesting thing. So, but it doesn't feel. I guess if you look, and you can pick out points and whatnot.
Yeah.
But it feels like it is the same movie, the same city, but it doesn't feel. It doesn't feel like there are these different locations. It feels cohesive. It feels connected.
It does because they had a central director.
Yeah.
He did all of them. And there's changes and there's little things, but I would like to see go back to your point of like, had they filmed them all consecutively, would that have changed? Like, would we have seen like just like Pittsburgh throughout the whole thing? Or would we have?
Because it would have been an insane schedule to have to go from city to city to city.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, getting his vision the right way. It would be really interesting to see how they did it. But, as it stands, like, I mean, there was 8 years between Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises. And they had to like justify that as like, he's been in retirement basically, which Oh, I hate that. I hate it so much. Like
It was a weird the movie was a weird one. Like it came off of Dark Knight,
mhm.
and that was a great movie.
Oh, yeah.
And but
Standing ovations in the theater.
yeah, and it was done really well in every way, I thought. And then Dark Knight Rises was like some big shoes to fill.
Yeah, and I think that's a hard story because that's the Nightfall storyline. It's one of the longest in Batman history. I mean, you look at like the big collections, and they're like an inch and a half thick, and there's like 6 of them, versus like a regular graphic novel, which is like not even half an inch sometimes.
Right,
You
yeah.
know, I'm showing my nerd a lot right now, but I'm really sad because my favorite comic book store closed down, so I've been very comic heavy.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah, it's like last day is like on the 18th of next month. I'm
You
very
better
sad.
go buy
I did.
lots and lots.
I have bought everything I could. I am broke because of comic books right now. But yeah, like it's a long story,
Right.
and they had a lot to cover, and that time gap did not help them because you had to establish, well, where's he been, you know? And
yeah,
then,
and you have to do it because you can't not address it.
because like he's obviously he looks older.
Yep.
You know,
You could de-age him, but de-aging is such a weird thing. Like
and it wasn't
Marvel
even around then.
seems
yeah.
to be doing a decent job of de-aging.
Yeah.
Other movies,
Captain Marvel, Sam Jackson looks great.
Yeah.
You know?
that one. But then you have. It's funny. We go back to Rogue One.
Yeah.
Those are terrible.
Yeah. The de-aging in that.
It's like
and,
rubber faces.
Yeah.
And sometimes when it's when you see, it's better if the de-aged actors or actresses, whatever, they don't talk, but when they talk, it's very noticeable. There was
I think the biggest thing about that. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I don't.
no,
Want
it was like I think Terminator series did a decent job in one of the movies, and then another movie was just terrible.
Oh,
I remember
yeah.
the younger Arnold.
Yeah, in like T3 or something like that.
Yeah, it
Or-
was. They went back, but there was like a good Arnold, and then there was a bad one, and then they re-emulated or they emulated some of the 1984 stuff or whatever.
Oh yeah, that was like one of the most recent ones.
Yeah.
I
And those
don't
were
even
pretty
know.
good. But I don't remember if he talked a whole lot. But they
No.
didn't look so they didn't look too bad. But then you see so de-aging is one of those things. I don't know. I feel like I don't know if actors or whatnot. I know people hate it because it's like just get new people.
Right.
Stop reusing the same
So-
people.
I think the biggest thing with de-aging myself is so it really varies. Like if the actor is still alive
Mhm.
and they're playing themselves, like Sam Jackson in Captain Marvel was playing a de-aged version of himself.
Yeah.
Which really it worked.
That's a
because
good situation.
yeah. With Rogue One, I can't remember the actor's name, but Grand Moff Tarkin, the character who's primarily throughout the whole thing, he's been gone for years.
Yep.
And that's where the debate really came in, is like he's, instead of getting a stand-in and somebody to do a,
Who
fill
looks
the
a
role,
lot like him.
or even just like emulates the acting and like maybe doesn't look the part but is the character.
Yep.
Kind of like how they changed Mad Max for Fury Road.
Mhm.
He doesn't look anything like Mel Gibson, but Tom Hardy plays Max.
Right.
And he brings what he can, and he brings what's new and
And
what
it's
people love.
established that, and everybody's like, okay, that's
and
what
it was fine. Everybody, Fury Road was one of the biggest movies of that year.
I mean, I can understand. See, the thing about movies is that I can understand from the perspective of we want everything to be consistent. We want the guy who played Grand Moff Tarkin.
Yeah.
It's a weird word, by the
It
way.
is.
It's so
When it came out,
strange.
people were like, "We're just gonna call him Tarkin," because the other, like, what?
So you have your movies spread out from 1977 until now, but you
Mhm.
want everything to be consistent. But it's impossible because people get older.
Right.
You can't, unless you film everything together, you can't. Like the Marvel movies were probably one of the closest ways that we could ever get that, because they were filmed over the course of
10 years.
10 years?
Yeah.
but they still get older, and you can't deny that. But you can't take them and go back and insert a story that happened in the middle without something seeming off.
Right.
Like, animation. This is probably why watching any kind of animated stuff is great, because there's none of that except for maybe voice acting.
Right. You can tell a voice ages.
Yeah. And but there's like this, like you said, there's good reasons with the Dark Knight trilogy that if they were all at the same time,
Mhm.
then the cities might not feel like they represented the story as well as if they spread them out. But when you spread them out, then you have 8 years between, and now you have to say,
You have to fill that
why
gap.
is Bruce Wayne so old?
Yeah, and where's he been for 8 years and all these things? And like, I think had they been able to cut that part out, if there'd been like a 2-year gap, like normal, you know, then I think it would have been a stronger movie. But they had to fill the gap, and then they had to film the fall and the rise of Batman.
Yep.
And there's some great moments in that film. Like, I think the moment, and anybody, it's been over, I think, almost 10 years since Dark Knight Rises came out. Definitely since The Dark Knight came out. So this is your spoiler alert
It's
now.
been out spoiler, but it's been out for a while.
Yeah, so I don't feel bad. But the moment where Alfred says, "I'm not going to bury another Wayne," and he quits.
Yeah.
Like, that is one of the best moments in a Christopher Nolan film. It's so, but you have to sit through an hour of all this other stuff. And it's like, okay, like I just.
You know, the worst thing though about that was that they made a big deal about him having like a bad knee and all this bad, like his body was falling apart.
Right.
And they slapped on that thing on his leg, and that was never a deal like ever again in that movie. It was like, okay, you made a big deal out of it, but it's not a big deal, is it?
Yeah. And like and see, again, if they had filmed it, like, I definitely get them making him older and like not as, and definitely worn out by, everything he had to go through, and like the events of The Dark Knight. There's such it's a hard thing when you realize, like, literally becoming the villain, like they said, like everything he stood for. And that takes a toll on you, and it took a toll on him. But instead of continuing to fight and be the hero, he kind of just
he just leaves.
Yeah. And he just remains the villain rather than, doing anything about it, which if they had, again, there hadn't been so much time between the movies, I think they could have really had fun playing with there. But, they tried, and you're right. They could have made that so much more. Like that fight scene, the fight scene with Batman and Bane in the underground tunnel is a fantastic piece of cinema. But it drags that movie down so much because they didn't make more of an effort to show you how worn out Batman was. Yeah. Like, and how
it felt like he just was up against this guy who was essentially a brick wall, and then Batman wasn't strong enough. But I never felt like Batman wasn't strong enough for any other reason other than he just met his match kind of thing. Not like he was older and aging.
And there could have been so much more emotional weight to it. And it's still like, if you look at that scene from a standalone perspective and you take out the gap, you take out all the stuff before it, it's fantastic. The way they did it, there's no music. Right. It's just hard hits, cold camera work, and you feel every moment. Watch that scene on its own, and you're gonna sit there and go, "Whoa!"
Yeah, the cinematography was really, really
fantastic.
Nice there.
Yeah, and the way the editing, everything about it was great.
Yeah.
And you really see this character fail and the fall of Batman. But when you put it in context, it's like, all right, I'm ready. I know he's gonna come back. I know it's gonna,
it's gonna happen. Yeah.
Right. Whereas if they had more time in the beginning rather than explaining where he's been and all this other stuff, you could have felt the fall, because you would have been coming off the Joker, his nemesis, coming off of, I just beat him and now there's somebody even worse.
Right.
That emotional fall would have been so much more.
Oh, it's like it's like the Star Trek movies when the ship gets like blown up or pieces and they come into the next episode, it's like limping along.
Yeah.
It's like then they immediately have to get into something else.
Right.
Where it would have been more emotional weight if there was, like you said, less time. So he was limping to try and just like take a breath, but then suddenly something else happens, and now he's beaten up. He doesn't have the time to relax.
And it would have been more, I think, in line with the comics at times. Like in the comics, Batman is just like, he's never worn out. I mean, he is. At times they have storylines where he's worn out, but he's just every night it's go, go, go. He's never tired.
I guess that's the difference between the live action, because it meant to ground it more in reality.
Right. And the comics are, that's what you're there for.
Yeah.
But yeah, bringing in that humanity would have been, and that realism would have been fantastic for that exact reason. Yeah. And just like, that was one of the problems with Star Trek too, is like the movies, it's like, okay, the Enterprise blew up. Next movie, we have a brand new one.
Star Trek, in my opinion, this drives me nuts about Star Trek. Oh, the old Star Trek movies, and the original series, I thought was pretty cool. The original series didn't shine as well as the movies did. The original movie, I thought the movies did a great job.
Oh yeah,
they did take place afterwards though.
Yeah.
So, but I appreciate them. I Next Generation then comes out, and then they set this tone where you have this crew or this captain who is very diplomatic, and he wants to sit at a table with people, and he wants to get their input,
Right.
and he doesn't. What is there? That's the prime directive, right? You can't do certain things. That's just what we don't go against that.
Right.
And he in the show would be so aware, and he would of that, and he would never try to break that. He would do everything he can. There was episodes where you can't interfere with the civilization.
Right.
Right. And then
because they're pre-warp or all this stuff.
Yeah, you can't go in, and then like there's this extinction event that's going to happen. They have to let it happen. They have to let it do. They have to let it happen to these people.
Right.
You can't do anything. You can't step in.
Yeah.
So he would. I think there was an episode where they were struggling with that.
Yeah, and it's like that moral dilemma.
Yeah. In the movies, it's like a completely different crew in the Enterprise.
Right.
Like Captain Picard is violating the Prime Directive.
Yeah.
It's just shooting everything. Doesn't care. It's a completely different.
Just goes through the neutral zone.
Yeah.
Like whatever.
It's so mind blowing to me because they want Star Trek to appeal to this audience, big audience, but this big audience they think wants explosions and people like, what, the rules? Screw the rules. I don't care. I'm going to blow it up. And then he comes back the next movie, by the way, and then he's still there somehow. I don't know how he's still a captain. Yeah. After all this, and then
it's those years of service on the show. Like they're like, oh no, Picard is our guy.
Right. They go back in time and they interfere. All this stuff in these movies, and it's just like it makes no sense to me. And then they go back and you have the show, and it's just completely different.
Yeah.
And it drives me nuts because those movies are all just so. I understand that a movie that is Next Generation. That tone, that level of action is a lot more sedated, and it's a lot more cerebral, and it's a lot deeper in terms of what they're talking about, they're doing, and that wouldn't translate well to a movie.
Yeah.
But they had to make movies. They felt like because they wanted to capitalize on this.
Yeah.
But it's just like alienates this whole community and this whole like idea.
I actually hadn't even thought about that till you brought it up.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It drives me nuts. I can't. I hate it because it's like. Wow, why are you changing it so much?
And it's like the show is like, in my opinion, it is one of the truest forms of science fiction that there is.
Right.
Like Next Generation, the show, because of exactly the reason that you were saying. It's like he has these things that he can't do. The Prime Directive is key, all these things. And it's fascinating. And you get these moral dilemmas. And it was really, in Voyager, it was really like they played with it a lot. And that's what makes Voyager so good. And like kind of those three, the original series, Next Gen, and Voyager. I haven't really watched Deep Space Nine all that much, but I know some people really love it. Some people are like, whatever.
It seems to be that way. But yeah.
But yeah, like they really played with that and they really knew what they were doing. And then when they made the movies, it was like, there's a Klingon, shoot it.
Yeah. I don't even know if the people who watched or who made the movies even cared to watch the show. That's what it feels like.
Well, what really bugs me is some of the people from the show directed the movies.
Yeah.
Like Jonathan Frakes directed First Contact.
Right.
I think it was First Contact. He directed one of them.
It was just weird because it's like you were there.
Yeah, did you know the show.
Did you pay attention to the things that were happening?
And maybe that's more on the writers than anything. That's why I like the reboot series of Star Trek, like the new movies that have come out.
Except the second one.
The second one, the second one is a whole kettle of fish, like them lying about it's not Khan, and then of course it is Khan. And
that's right.
Yeah. But the first one, you can tell J.J. Abrams and the writing crew, they loved the show.
Yep. And
the third one was written by Simon Pegg, the guy who plays Scotty, and he and the other writers love that show.
You could tell they went back and they watched and they know what happened.
They grew up on it. And there's so many references, like even in the credits, like the green hand in the credits and stuff. And it was like this. They're the ones who were charged with the fourth one that was supposed to come out. I don't know where that project is right now, but you can tell. And the second one is not that. It was like a cash cow.
Feels like a whole bunch of people sat in a room at a table and said, all right, we got to get another movie out because this first one did really well. what's a big thing? And somebody's like, Khan.
Yeah, Wrath of Khan.
What's
Obviously.
Wrath of Khan? And it's like, well, you can't just do Wrath of Khan because they did basically like a reboot, right?
Right.
That's the first movie, and so they have to do now. They're like Wrath of Khan. That was the
best one. Yeah,
that was everybody knows Wrath of Khan, and they just did it so. So I don't even understand some of the motivations or whatnot. Or you have this guy who has, you have this huge ship being built, but like, and then nobody knows about it. All these things that just
don't make sense.
What is happening?
and what really irks me about that movie specifically is that in the first one, in Star Trek, they were like, Spock has a line where he's like, whatever our lives were in that timeline is completely different. We don't know the future. They have so much potential to just like, cool, we can touch on Khan, but he doesn't have to be the villain. He could be a good guy for all we, care.
Right.
Because they have a whole new universe to explore with characters that we know and love, and we can change them. And they showed in the first one, we've got you. The characters are still the characters. They're just new versions of themselves. And they did it in a fantastic way.
Right.
Especially Carl Urban. His portrayal of Bones is fantastic.
He's the best part of the second movie.
He is. Because he's the most that acts like his character.
Yep. He just does a good job all around, even if it's meant to be based off that same character or not. Like he just, I'd watch a show with just him.
Yeah.
Being Bones.
That would be great. The story of Bones.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then like they're like, well, we're gonna fall on what we know because Wrath of Khan did so well. Obviously, we have to do Khan now.
Right.
But then you get Star Trek Beyond, and they're like, that didn't work.
Mm-mm.
And Simon Pegg's like, I can make something work. And he does he and his team, I keep referencing just him because he was one of the lead writers, but he had a full team with him. And they did this fantastic job of like, cool, we can do what we did in the first movie and talk about some of those things and reference things. And they do a fantastic job of that, but we can do something new in a sense. It still follows the same Star Trek plot that's kind of tried and true, like bad guy, super weapon, gonna destroy the Earth or some form of it. But they had so much fun of like, cool, you know how the Enterprise is like the key thing? Gone first 10 minutes. Like, and that goes back to like the emotional blow. That worked so well because we knew 2 movies in, like it's been hurt, but it survives. And then it's gone. And you felt it. The only problem I had with that movie at all is the same problem I've had with movies for a while now. It didn't feel like they were going to lose. Like there's no desperation. And when you're making a movie, especially like that, you have to give a moment, at least one, in my opinion, where the audience feels like, oh, maybe they will fail. That's the only thing that kept it from being like 5 stars to me. It was like a 4.8.
Right.
Because at no point did I feel that. But that's a whole nother diatribe to go on. And I won't put people through that right now because I have a question for you because I was thinking about it when we were talking about high school.
Yeah.
Okay. You say you don't remember, where you wouldn't know how to get to your classes and stuff.
Sure.
Okay. But, it's safe to say you might remember some of the people there, right? Like some of your friends.
I remember, some friends. Yeah.
All right. So, gotta ask. Let's get a little deep roasto here.
Okay.
All right. Tell us about who you were in high school. Were you the nerdy kid? Were you the, like what clique did you like kind of fall into, or did you fit into a clique?
I had a group of friends that before school or when we had like, cause I was a band kid, I was in band. So, we had some kids that basically hung out in and around the band room. In the morning, we kind of hang out by the door before it opened up. And as soon as it was opened up, about 25, 30 minutes before school started, the room would get opened up and go in there and hang out. And we would probably, I'm trying to think of like music. It was pretty big mix of music. It was definitely not like popular stuff. Mm-hmm. Remember the kids that would listen to stuff. Remember, that's why I discovered Rufio, the band. Yeah. Which is like a really cool, like punk, like hard punk kind of like poppy kind of thing. Yeah. A little bit here and there. But so kind of off the beaten track, I suppose, in terms of music. I remember it was probably more like darker, like even like gothy kind of clothes. Not really like goth, but like, like
on the verge of goth.
Yeah, one of my friends had Jinko jeans. Yeah, Jinko huge jeans.
Oh, Jinko jeans. Oh my god.
Black shirts all the time.
Yeah.
We used to play like wall ball outside.
Yeah.
You have a tennis ball and you throw it, you catch it, and then I can't remember when, but if somebody did something wrong, you'd have to stand on one side of the wall and then run across the wall, and then people could peg you with the ball if you
we had something similar.
Yeah.
But yeah, ours was like if you didn't catch the ball,
mm-hmm.
you had to haul towards the wall.
Yeah.
And if whoever could get the ball before you and peg you with it, you were out.
Right.
Or you scored a point. But if you touched the wall, you were safe.
Right.
And you could go back into the game. Like that was our version. But yeah, no, I know wall ball.
Yeah, so there was like a common thing because you have a ball, that's it. You have a big wall at school, and they have that. And then I guess it really the people I hung out with kind of evolved a little bit as I was going through high school.
Mm.
I think I was a pretty annoying kid. Okay. I didn't really know how to have control, I guess, some of the stupid things that would come out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Or whatnot. I could see that I'd be pretty obnoxious, back then.
No, I get it.
I think I ended up having this thing where I kind of matured and and kind of gained some perspective on how to act in terms of whatnot in my master when I was doing my master's.
Okay.
Like my mid-20s.
Nice.
So, but high school, I was probably obnoxious. I also hated high school, so I graduated early to get out.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So I was like, I just didn't like it very much. It was super cliquey. We had a lot of cliques.
Yeah.
In my school too. And but I wasn't a big fan of just like going in, doing the class thing, and then just doing that normal stuff. I just, I wanted I wanted to leave and just move on.
I get it. In high school, I bounced around like between different social groups or cliques or whatever you want to call it. I had a weird experience in high school. I think just because, so like I grew up really quick, right? Like like
that movie with Robin Williams,
also called Jack.
Jack,
yeah,
that's right. That you?
Yeah, it's me. That is the story of Imaginary Friend Jack.
You came out when you were in the hospital and immediately in kindergarten. You put on the bus.
Yeah, okay. I was. No, I had weary bones when I was a kid. But no, like I say I grew up fast because it was just my mom and I for a while.
Yep.
I never met technically my birth father.
But you had to fill that role.
Yeah, like it was just my mom and I. And there was, certain things. And so I grew up really quick. And then my dad came into the picture, when I was 13, so it was a lot of like change around that time. Like
right.
Technically my dad's my stepdad, but he is my dad. Like I've never thought of him as anything else. But it was a weird time because I was so used to like, cool, control. Like I was in Boy Scouts, I was the patrol leader, or I was the senior patrol leader, or, when I was in ROTC, even though I really didn't want to, I rose through the ranks really quick because I was like, I know how to do this. This isn't hard for me.
Yeah.
And I know the difference of like, whereas a lot of kids were like, I just want to have fun. It's like, cool, get your work done. And then we can have all the fun. The quicker and the right way you do your work rather than just, goofing around the entire time. And so like a lot of people hated me in high school. And some people were like, like my friends were like, really, they were my friends, which was cool. But then a lot of people like were like, that guy is like way too serious. And at the same time, like I was trying to figure out how to not be that guy anymore.
Right.
Because it's like, I have my dad now. I don't have to be that way. I can.
But that's not a bad thing. See, this is the thing that bothers me about high school. That's another thing that I hated about it.
Yeah.
Is that you had an upbringing that shaped you to be like that.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, there's not. Yeah.
Right. And that mentality that you had to be to kind of be a leader is a great thing to have after high school.
Right.
People try to go to classes and learn how to be a leader.
Right.
But you have kids that had probably some parent situation or some home situation that wasn't like that. So, but it's different.
Yeah.
And they just wanted to have fun and screw around. They've never had to fill this role.
Exactly.
But they make fun of you for it, even though that's a great skill to have, unfortunately, because of your events at home.
Right. And I think the biggest reason like people didn't like me was because it's like I didn't know how to relax.
Right.
That like I never knew how to relax until
like
my dad came.
Always on alert.
Yeah. And like until my dad came around, he's the one who really taught me like it's okay to not be like you know, stress tests, like like that you can get or whatever, like the high end, even to this day is my baseline.
Wow.
Yeah. Because that's just how I grew up. It's
right.
So learning to relax, like I really didn't learn how to relax until I was in college, like after high school.
Yeah.
And then it was like 2 years before I went to like university, and I was like, I don't care about anything. I'm gonna let my hair grow out for the first time. Like it was down to my back, you know, almost like it is now. But yeah, like, so I had a weird time in high school because like there were people who like, they got it and they understood that, okay, he's in this weird position of he's trying to learn how to relax. And there were people who just didn't, one of whom was the band director who hated me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. Our band director, he was good at his job. Don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
He came into our band when we were, you know, growing and we hadn't been doing well. And he took us to state the first year he was there.
Nice.
Yeah. And then to me, that's kind of when I lost respect for him a little bit, because it's like, cool, I took you to state, now whatever. Now I'm like tenured. I can do my job. You know, I'm impressive.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and he wasn't a bad guy. He was funny.
Right.
Like I distinctly remember hearing him, because I was dating someone at the band at the time. And, you know, I would go hang out after school, especially after I got my car. I was like, I don't have to catch the bus anymore. I can go hang out at the band and, you know, until they go out to practice or whatever, you know, see my partner. But I distinctly remember him talking about like the football show, because, you know, the football show was the big thing, you know, you have to impress. Yeah. The halftime, you know, you gotta, you know, they were learning Freebird, you know, and all this stuff.
Oh boy.
And he had this part where he's saying, he's like, so I want there to be so much passion in your music. In the second like act, people need to be making babies in the stands. It's so passionate. And
the like, kids.
Yeah. And then he goes, and then in the third act, I want them throwing those babies out to you in the field because they're like, you need to raise my child.
Wow.
It was insane.
Good thing he had tenure so they couldn't, he couldn't get fired. You know?
And it was just like, but like I lost so much respect for him because he just stopped.
Yeah.
You know, like that was like his first year and he was so good. And then he stopped and he didn't care. And the band fell apart. Like I remember like I was hanging out there and the reason he didn't like me was because a few of the ROTC kids and I were in the band. And he didn't like that because we would come in and we would be in our uniforms on Wednesdays and we looked sharp. Yep. You know, we could put the band uniforms to shame because we were wearing like, I was Marine Corps JROTC, so I had like the dress blues and stuff because I was captain.
Yep.
You know, had the nice high and tight and whatever. I look weird with a bald head, but I had it. And, you know, I had the cover under my arm, all that good stuff, had some medals, which mean nothing, but, you know, they look nice. And we would come in and, you know, we'd just be hanging out, just be talking, whatever. But he didn't like that we looked so good and we had like a rhythm to us because the ROTC was really small. Mm-hmm. And we were almost like our own clique in a sense. Like you looked out for each other, you called each other out, but you knew how to move as a unit, which the band didn't know how to do anymore. You know, like you watch a show out on the field or a competition, and I mean, you've taught bands, you know this. Like there has to be a unison. There has to be like they're not just one person. They're like they are one person altogether. Like they have to move as one, and they weren't doing that anymore. And the fact that we, even in like different parts of the band, you could tell that was going on. Like we knew where we were. We watched everybody. We were looking out for each other. And when one of us was ready to go, we all left, or, you know, because we had stuff to do. And he just was like getting irritated because he's like, you're coming in here and you're showing up our band. You're distracting them. You're being too flashy. And I had also been part of like our color guard changed from like the band presenting the flags or whatever, or just standing for the national anthem to our instructor was like, no, we need to do this. And we would go out there and like carry the American flag and the Marine Corps flag. And we had like our drill rifles and stuff. And we looked damn good. You know, and I ran that my junior year in high school. And then senior year, I was like the photographer. So I pissed him off even more because of that. But yeah, I'll get to that in a second. But he basically came over and was like, I don't want you or any ROTC kid in this band hall anymore.
What?
Unless you're in the band, because you could do both. Yeah. You don't get to be here.
What a weird hill to die on.
Right. And I was like, there was a couple of us. It was my commanding officer, myself, and one other person on the the command staff, and we were just like, you can't do that.
Right.
It's after school. You're not in practice yet. These 20 whatever minutes are ours.
Yeah.
You can't tell us that. And some of these kids, we're checking on our kids. They're in both. We're making sure, hey, did you get this? We're trying to be responsible. And our XO who was with us, that's who the other person was, looks at him and goes, we called each other by our last name, but I won't say it, but he's like, give Jack and our CO and I a week with your band. They'll be marching better than you ever had them.
Right.
They'll win state. They won't just go. And the band director got so red-faced. He was so pissed at our XO. And he's just like, get out. He starts yelling and then he just storms off. He's like, I don't ever want to see you in here again. And we're like punk kids. So we're like, next day we were there. Yeah. But in some senses it was true. Cause we're like, dude, you gave up. You're coasting.
The difference between a bad and a good teacher is that in that situation, most good educators or teachers would be like, what's the learning, what's the educational moment here?
Right.
And they would literally say to the band, those kids over there in ROTC who are doing really, really well. Yeah. And then they work together and they're like one unit.
Yeah.
This is what you guys need to do. They do such a great job. We need to do that.
Right.
Instead of like dogging on you because you show them up. That's it's a jealousy thing. It's a bad trait to have.
And he didn't last long. After the year after I graduated, he was gone.
So
he only lasted 4 years. Yeah, it was actually I think he was gone halfway through my I don't remember, but it was very soon after that.
Yeah.
And then at that point, I just had no I was like, whatever. You are a non-entity to me. And so the next year when I was a senior and I was on the newspaper and yearbook, I was like, hey, I get to use a camera. I'm having a lot of fun. And I was like, cool. Nobody ever goes and gets photos of the ROTC at a football game, or they only get the shots of the band while they're out on the field. Nobody goes into the stands, even though they can, because they're so afraid of this guy and his reputation.
Sure.
And I was like, I know people in the band. I got up in the stands, in the special section for the band.
Yep.
And, I was snapping photos. I wasn't distracting anybody, but he would glare at me every time. He'd just look at me and I'm like, you're not even directing. Your drum major's directing. And I'm just getting good photos, dude. And I could tell one time he wanted to say something to me. So as I'm walking, I just pulled out my press pass and I just kind of flashed it at him. And he just grumbled to himself and stormed off. And I'm just like, dude.
It sounds like a real winner.
Yeah, I know, right?
It sounds awesome at parties. I would love to hang out with this guy.
I know, right?
Jeez.
I just, it's ridiculous.
That was somebody who was in charge of kids that. His job was to teach people.
Yeah. And I don't get people like that who want to be in education. I really don't. If you're going to be in education, you have to, I get being tired, especially if you've done it a long time. And especially with the things that teachers have to put up nowadays. Yeah. And the last, not to get too into it, but just the way that schooling has been treated in the US over the last, however many years, longer than we think. They have to put up with a lot.
Yeah.
And it's a hard job that they don't get paid enough for. But if you're going to be a teacher, especially now, you need to have that passion for it.
Right.
And you need to have that understanding of this is going to be hard, but I'm there because I want to help kids. I want to guide them. I want to help turn them into the people they're going to be.
Yep. And again, and then that band director was not there for anybody but himself.
It was for his credit and his credit alone.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, I just don't get people like that. I really don't. But
sometimes people just get on a track and they follow that track, and then sometimes they coast through until they can retire. Other times they get out or do something. But yeah, there's some people that that end up going down that road, and then unfortunately they're in front of others, and their job is to be the role model, the example, and they set such a bad example. Yeah. They don't. I think some of those people, if they actually were able to witness the product of how bad they were, to see some of those kids later on or understand how they failed them, they might change their way. But I think there's so easy because they had tenure. Right. People just leave them alone, or people don't want to step up and actually do something. There's a lot of just people make it a non-issue. They're really passive about it.
Yeah. And when you're bringing in money because of the band, they don't care,
Yeah, I mean, they don't care unless you do something that is against the law or against your tenured status.
Right.
You know, as long as you're just like, some people just know to keep their head down and they just do what they need to do.
The bare minimum.
Yeah, and then they get paid and then they retire and then they're done.
Yeah, I don't. All right.
You don't understand that because you're not that person.
Right. And I hope everybody listening isn't that person either. And if you are, just remember someday some version of yourself is going to pop up with a guardian angel. And that guardian angel is going to say, and this is you if you were this way. And they're going to go, no, spare me this evil.
That's what people need. People need a book to open and they need to see the alternate timeline of if you made this choice, which was the bad choice or the good choice. So you can be like, yeah, that's I'm glad I did this, or I really wish I hadn't done that, because then you can actually learn from it. Yeah.
Wouldn't that be so weird to be able to do, right?
You
like
just
to look
everything.
into like parallel universe you. Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
All right. I told a crazy story from high school.
Okay.
I think you tell us if you've got one. Maybe it could be college too, but if you've got a crazy story you're willing to share, I think that'd be a good thing to end on.
Geez,
today.
a crazy story from high school or college. This is going to be a tough one.
Weirdest thing you've done. Craziest thing you've done.
Weirdest thing I've done. Man, this is a tough one. I'm trying to think of something. I don't know if I have a crazy. I'd have to think on this one.
Okay.
I'm on the spot. I don't know if there's a crazy story to come up with. I know that there's some. I got into an accident. I'd say that I got an accident on the way to school once.
You did?
Yeah,
no, I didn't know that.
It was. I guess I was on the way to school, so technically it counts.
Okay.
I'd have to think about crazy stories. I tried to block those from my memory.
It's
many years
to
of
revisit
repression
on occasion.
Yeah. Okay. No, I don't remember any crazy ones. If I really dig down deep, I could. But I did get into an accident. I used to have a Saturn car that had it was stick shift.
Okay.
I loved it. It was so good. I got it as a gift when I was younger.
Does Saturn even exist anymore?
I don't think they do, no. But I still see them every so often.
Yeah, like they're on the road, I know. But.
Yeah, but they've been gone for a while. It was a great car. It was plastic because the Saturn cars were known for being plastic, I suppose. But mine was stick shift. I love driving stick. And I moved down to Louisiana to do my master's. And on the way to my music history final exam, I was driving there. And I'm just going whatever the speed limit is, 40 or 45. And I'm driving down a 2-lane road. So a car that's coming towards me, and there's no light, there's no stop sign. It just turns right in front of me.
Jeez.
Yeah, my car was destroyed. Engine pieces everywhere.
So, so you were like head on into this guy.
Yeah.
Because of the way he did it.
Yeah, it was a woman who was going to. A woman that was going to a church, and she did not pay attention to anything. Didn't realize that I was even there, and just turned, and then I drove right into her. Ooh. Her car was actually, I think, mostly okay, and mine was destroyed.
So it was almost like you T-boned.
Yeah.
Except on the passenger side.
It was a bit more, right.
And her car was fine?
Hers was right ahead of the door. So we almost hit corner to corner, but I was a little bit further to the back of the car. But mine was like all crumpled up, engine parts 10, 20 feet away. The airbag deployed and I had a little bit of blood or whatnot on my face, but nothing crazy, but I was more shooken up. And actually, this is the only time that I've never heard of a story, but she admitted fault. She said, I'll admit fault. And I was like, wow.
You and I have something in common there too then.
Yeah. So, but somebody behind who witnessed it, apparently they were friends, was ready to say, I can't remember how I know this. I can't remember who I talked to, was ready to support her friend and lie.
Oh my God.
Luckily, the person I hit was totally upfront about it.
That it was their fault.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And I had to call my music history teacher and be like, I just got into an accident. I can't make it. And I was really upset because I thought I was going to make him mad.
Oh no.
And I'm like, and he's like, no. It's fine. You got to let me know. We'll reschedule it.
Yeah.
So I went and I got a lawyer because I didn't want to have to do all the work and everything.
Right.
Because I didn't do anything wrong. I was just driving.
Right.
So obviously I had to go through all this physical therapy and do all this stuff. And I ended up having to reschedule my exam. I was also on some really, really heavy pain meds.
Ooh.
So I had to take a music history exam on I don't remember what it was. It was like Percocet or something like that.
Vicodin,
Something like that.
Oh,
yeah.
geez.
You definitely aren't in the right mindset.
No, you're not.
And music history exams are typically the same as like an art history exam. Is that they show you or they play you something and you need to write down historical facts about it or recall information about, to write a paragraph on why
about that piece.
So you had to remember this stuff. It was very factual, and it was not just like you couldn't just fake your way through a paragraph. You had it was like, this is right or wrong.
Yeah, you either get it or you don't.
Yeah. So I remember freaking out because I was not in the right mindset, but I had to take it. And I also, at this point, I had a 4.0 in my master's degree.
Oh, wow.
And this is one of the, I think, third or fourth semester. So this is late in. And he was going to grade it right there in front of me. And I was flipping out. Because
that's terrifying.
Well, I don't think he did it to be rude. I think he just wanted to make sure that I knew what the grade was, and then also to get it set up and put in the system right then and there. Okay, that makes sense.
Because it was kind of like a makeup exam, basically. Yeah.
So he graded it. And then I was flipping out, and I got a B.
Mm-hmm.
Now, just real quick, say I got a 4.0 in my master's. In high school, I didn't do that great. In my bachelor's, I didn't do that great at all. Like my bachelor's degree, my undergrad was I did terribly.
Okay.
So I was really, really trying to do the best I could, and I wanted to get a 4.0.
Right.
It was important to be able to have that growth, I suppose.
That makes sense.
So I got like an 87 or 80 or something, 80 something. I can't remember.
Right.
And I was flipping out. I'm like, is this not gonna give me an A?
Is this gonna tank my GPA?
Yeah. And he looks at me. He goes, "No, you've gotten like an A on everything else. You're
you
fine."
Can get one B.
I was so freaked out because I was not gonna get my 4.0 because I was high on pain meds and whatnot, and my car was blown up and whatnot. And it all turned out to be okay. But man, that was I was on the way to school. That was like the story that people ask me if I'm ever in an accident or some I guess test related story.
Yeah.
That's my story that I come up with off the top of my head. But I bet you for next time, I'll have a story for you.
Okay.
I'll need to dig through some of those repressed memories.
Okay. And I will share how you and I are linked in the same way as on an accident then.
Right.
Because we have something in common there, which is a weird thing I never thought I would say.
We both had people in accidents that acted appropriately.
Yeah, and I will tell you the story of that. But I hope everybody has enjoyed listening to this episode. It is, again, our first one back at the studio. Really happy to be in here because I built this dang place. We
need cushions for these chairs, though. My butt hurts.
Yes,
my back hurts.
That is my next thing is cushions. But yeah, no, it's nice to be able to do this and to be here in person. And I hope that, we sound better because we don't have the internet interference. And that I know I've had fun. Have you had fun?
I had a great time. It's good to sit down and talk.
It is. It's good to catch up and apologize for the delay in this episode. For all of you who are wondering about that, I had some family issues.
Actually, that was my fault.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
How so?
Oh, I woke up late that day.
Oh.
It wasn't on my calendar. And then it hit me when I got coffee and I was on a walk in the park.
That's right. We were supposed to record just before I left.
That was 100% my fault because it was I just for everything. I am really good about remembering on to be somewhere for like a get together or a meeting or whatnot. But I was in the park walking, getting coffee or drinking coffee. And then I said, I think I was supposed to be somewhere right now. It was 40 minutes late. And then I sent you a message and you were like, yep. And then I felt really bad.
Don't worry about it. It's all good.
I'm sorry about that.
No,
I don't think I told you that part.
I mean, because of what was going on, it probably wouldn't have been as energetic as it is now. So it worked out for the best.
Yes.
But for all of you out there, if you like how this sounds, this is going to be a quick ad, I know, because even though the Roasto is something that Darko and I do on our own, I do want to give a shout out to Novo Studios because that's where we are recording now. And if you are, in the area that we're in, I'm not going to say it out loud right now, but if you, are interested in recording your own podcast and you don't have the equipment or can't afford it and you think you might want to rent the space, it is available for that. All you have to do is search Novo Studios, and I believe there's a link on our website. Just a quick little pitch, and you'll actually get to meet me. because I'm the one who runs this part
That
of the
right
studio
there,
too.
that's the best part.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. That's sweet. That made my day.
The equipment's cool and expensive and all that kind of stuff, but really, it's hanging out with Jack.
Oh, thank you. Well, from myself and from Darkosto, want to thank everybody for listening. We hope that you're staying safe as everything is kind of opening back up. Times are still crazy out there, so stay safe, wear a mask, wash your hands, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.